Our dear brother and host, His Excellency Dr. Afri-Caribbean, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Your Excellency, the Honorable Prime Minister of St. Lucia, the Philip Pierre, Honorable Ministers here present, the representatives of international organizations, the Secretary General of the CARICOM, the Governor of Lagos State of Nigeria, members of the legislature, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I stand on existing protocols. All of us from Africa and the Caribbean, at this moment, that at any other time in history, hold a firm conviction that determined action and not chance, nor handouts from elsewhere, can grant us the economic emancipation and the dignity we deserve as a people. We gather here in the land of many waters, buoyed by that conviction, to re-energize and reinvigorate the movement we collectively started a year ago. It is therefore my privilege and honor to welcome you all to the second edition of the Afri-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum, organized under the auspices of His Excellency President Afri-Caribbean and his government. I'm singularly honored to express our gratitude to all the heads of state, some of them who sent representatives, the prime ministers who are here, and all the senior officials who have joined us in this opening ceremony. Your presence here today is a strong vote of confidence for the project of achieving stronger Afri-Caribbean trade and investment relations. We have clarity on why we have embarked on this journey. I outlined it during the first edition in Barbados last year, when I said, and I quote, "Today, we are gathered here to course reverse, to turn the atrocity committed over 400 years ago into an asset for our people. We hope that when we leave here, our two regions will have forged an unbreakable, everlasting bond that opens direct links, enabling the Caribbean to receive a fair share of tourism receipts from African tourists. We want to live here with actionable proposals on how to open air and sea links between the Caribbean and Africa. We would like to live here with concrete plans to open banking and payment rails, seal joint ventures for industrial projects, deepen commercial collaboration in the creative and cultural space, including how to collectively protect our intellectual properties, and create institutional arrangements that will enable capacity building and greater daily engagements amongst ourselves. We want to live here clear in our minds regarding ways to catalyze manufacturing investments in the Caribbean, to take advantage of the $27 trillion North and Latin American markets. We must collaborate in the healthcare space so that shortages of qualified healthcare professionals can be overcome," unquote. A year later, the vision couldn't have been better defined. Another could the path be any clearer. We must be proud that in just 1 year, we have made significant progress in pursuit of our shared aspirations. We have worked very hard to fulfill our promises to each other, like true brothers and sisters. We have advanced initiatives, sometimes at great cost to ourselves, as institutions and countries, because we have a razor-sharp focus on the bigger picture, the ultimate goal of restoring dignity, respect, and control of our destiny to ourselves. I therefore stand here confident that success awaits us. It is possible because we all believe in the project, a belief which found expression in the milestones we have crossed. In just under a year, 12 of the 15 CARICOM member countries have signed the partnership treaty, and 8 had ratified, which made the treaty effective in months, not years. This paved the way for many groundbreaking achievements to occur in rapid succession. For instance, the Board of Directors of Afri-Caribbean Bank approved a lending limit of $1.5 billion for CARICOM states, with the promise of the limit to rise to $3 billion when all CARICOM member states join the partnership. Afri-Caribbean Bank has led more than 5 trade and investment missions to the CARICOM, which covered most of the countries that had signed the partnership agreement. This led to the building of over $2 billion in pipeline deals across the CARICOM. As a result, critical transactions have been approved or at final stages of conclusion. For Guyana here, we've agreed to conclude a $500 million transaction to support accelerated infrastructure development projects of the Guyanese government. For Barbados, in support of tourism revitalization. St. Lucia, for climate adaptation interventions. The Bahamas, for SME support and development. Grenada, for tourism projects, and St. Kitts and Nevis, for renewable energy projects and trade finance. Afri-Caribbean Bank Investment Promotion Drive has also attracted African investment interests in fisheries, renewable energy, ports, industrial parks, financial institutions, and tourism, to name a few. During this event, agreements will be signed covering some of these financings and investments. In particular, Afri-Caribbean subsidiary, the Fund for Export Development in Africa, will enter into a framework agreement with Access Bank Group Nigeria to jointly invest in the financial services sector here in Guyana and across the Caribbean. We also expect to sign a document evidencing the arrangements we've reached with the government of Guyana for the $500 million infrastructure investment bridge financing facility. Afri-Caribbean Bank's Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, PAPS, has been selected to run a pilot program for CARICOM central banks as a payment infrastructure for the CARICOM. We hope that very soon, the payment systems of Africa and the CARICOM will be integrated so that a Guyanese can buy an African product and pay seamlessly in Guyanese dollars, when the African seller receives his or her own national currency. And on the 4th of August 2023, 11 months since we started this journey, Afri-Caribbean Bank opened a Caribbean office in Barbados, and it has begun operations.
Can I say that we are on the way to an annual African-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum? At the first CARICOM Africa Summit in 2021, our leaders articulated a vision of a shared, prosperous future built on greater economic integration and enhanced people-to-people contact through increased trade, investment, air travel, and maritime links. With its market in the Continental Free Trade Arrangement set to reach $6.7 trillion by 2030, Africa represents tremendous potential. The continent is experiencing a rapid growth and transformation, with some countries being categorized among the fastest growing economies in the world. CARICOM is a strong performer in services, especially in such sectors as travel, tourism, and financial services, and there are real opportunities for investment and trade in the services sector as well as in the agriculture and industrial sectors. And of course, we have among us the country categorized as the fastest growing economy in the world, right where we are here in Guyana. There is much work to be done. The trade data shows that at this time there is a limited range of both exports and imports, and trade flows are also limited to a few countries. Total CARICOM Africa trade for 2021 was US 538 million, with a balance of 110 million in favor of Africa. Total trade in 2021 declined from a high of US 1.177 billion in 2018 when trade was nearly balanced. A study by the International Trade Center on expanding African-Caribbean trade, which was launched at the first Afri-Caribbean Trade Investment Forum last year in Barbados, found considerable trade potential between Africa and the Caribbean. Services exports to Africa show the greatest opportunity for the Caribbean, and Africa has 2.3 times more potential to export goods to the Caribbean. This is the International Trade Center study. Advancing trade and investment flows between our regions requires a strengthened and streamlined infrastructure to support Africa-CARICOM trade, including air and maritime distribution and transportation channels. This would be facilitated by establishment of a multilateral air services agreement between African countries and the Caribbean community. Since last year's forum, there has been growing commercial cooperation between the Caribbean region and Africa, supported by the Afri-Caribbean Bank. Most CARICOM member states have signed partnership agreements with Afri-Caribbean Bank to operationalize cooperation towards strengthened bilateral trade and investment links, including by promoting and financing trade between our regions. As you've heard, the Afri-Caribbean Bank has established a representative office in Barbados and is providing technical assistance towards the establishment of a CARICOM Export-Import Bank. The potential for utilizing the African Payment and Settlement System as a method for intra-regional payments within the Caribbean is being studied, and a memorandum of understanding establishing the Africa-Caribbean Business Council has been signed. We also anticipate the signing of an MOU on upscaling engagement between the CARICOM Secretariat and the African Union Secretariat. The work that is in train to establish a platform for sustained dialogue, partnership, and cooperation requires constant attention and support. Creating a shared, prosperous future demands in particular that the private sector of the Caribbean and Africa continue to consolidate and grow the commercial ties that were forged last year at the first Africa-Caribbean Import-Export Forum in Barbados. Let us therefore use this forum as a building block to strengthen existing bilateral cooperation and engagements in trade, investment, technology transfer, innovation, tourism, culture, and other priority areas. Let us nurture the strategic partnerships between the business communities in Africa and the CARICOM region, and continue purposefully along the path to a shared, prosperous future. I wish all participants a successful forum. We look forward to the implementation of many business ties. Business creates communication, creates business. I wish all participants a successful forum. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
The Caribbean shares a profound and deep-rooted connection with the African continent, which traces back to the harrowing times of the transatlantic slave trade. Today, the echoes of this shared history resonate in the culture, music, traditions, and even the spirit of resilience of the Caribbean nations. Allow me to share a few thoughts with this gathering, underscoring our commitment to creating a shared, prosperous future with our African sisters and brothers. You will agree that we all recognize the immense potential that lies in strengthening economic ties for robust trade links and investments, tapping into shared markets, especially in developing sectors such as technology and renewable energy. St. Lucia remains committed to fostering cultural and educational exchanges, aiming to bridge our heritage and histories, while building solid partnerships between our educational institutions for knowledge transfer and research. In my first policy statement, after being sworn in as Prime Minister on July 28, 2021, in observance of Emancipation Day on Monday, August 2nd, 2021, I announced that I had instructed the Ministry of Education to prepare a syllabus for the teaching of African history at our educational institutions in St. Lucia. From last year in St. Lucia, Emancipation Day activities stretched over a 4-week period to emphasize the historical significance of the official end of the transatlantic slave trade. My cabinet has mandated that an experienced diplomat prepare for its consideration a comprehensive policy on ways in which we can strengthen our economic and social relationships with the African continent. Meanwhile, St. Lucia is ready to engage other OECS and CARICOM countries with a view to sharing a joint diplomatic presence with countries in the African continent. Addressing the pressing challenge of climate change and advocating for environmental sustainability is at the forefront of our agenda as we engage in research, policy making, and the sharing of green technological innovations. In the area of healthcare and well-being, our regions have much to gain from joint medical research and sharing best practices in public health management. This need was made even more evident in the wake of the global COVID pandemic. Enhancing our infrastructure and connectivity for improved transportation links and technological innovation also remains a priority. Making our region more accessible to each other should foster trade, tourism, and people-to-people contact. We are committed to learning and sharing best sustainable farming and fishing practices aimed at enhancing the CARICOM food security agenda. In all our endeavors, we underscore the importance of inclusive growth, creating avenues for youth economic engagement and women empowerment. In this way, we can collectively strive towards a future marked by prosperity, stability, human rights, and shared success. This forum symbolizes a bridge, a vital link, fostering economic and cultural relations between the African continent and the Caribbean region. Our coming together here in the Cooperative Republic of Ghana reflects our shared commitment to building resilient economies and communities for enhanced trade, investment, and cultural exchange. I believe that the theme of this year's forum, creating a shared prosperous future, is apt and timely. We are here to build on the progress achieved at ACTIF 2022, consolidating our gains and setting a clear and actionable agenda for the future. In the past year, we have made some strides in deepening our engagement with the African continent. The African Export Bank has played a pivotal role in facilitating trade and investment flows between Africa and the Caribbean, offering the financial instruments and support needed to bring our business communities together. St. Lucia is one of the first countries to sign the treaty with the African Export-Import Bank. Looking ahead, St. Lucia is committed to deepening our engagement with Africa, leveraging the opportunities presented by the African Export-Import Bank and other strategic partners. We anticipate significant work in areas such as technology transfer, innovation, sustainable tourism, and the creative industries. In the tourism sector, we envision a future where Africa and the Caribbean are connected through direct air and sea links, enabling travel, cultural exchange, and economic cooperation. This is not a dream, but a tangible goal that we are working diligently to achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, the journey ahead is filled with opportunity and potential. The connections we forge, the partnerships we build, and initiatives we undertake today will pave the way for a future of prosperity and collaboration between Africa and the Caribbean. As a united people, the continent of Africa and the Caribbean can transcend boundaries and overcome the historical obstacles that seek to divide us. Let us together seize the moment, embrace the opportunities, and work together to build a future that is bright, prosperous, and interconnected. I thank you.
Today, the world is faced with many challenges. We in CARICOM are not divorced from those challenges. For a matter of fact, those challenges come at an accelerated pace to us. And we have the choice to bow before the challenge or confront those challenges and win amongst it. The Afri-Caribbean Bank offers that branch to help us to confront these challenges and win against them. I have had the opportunity to work with Professor Orama and his team, and I can tell you about the diligence that they apply to their work. In Bahamas, they spent almost 48 hours of continuous meetings. I must say we occupy a significant portion of your time. And last night, on his arrival, he and his team worked with my Minister of Finance and his team almost throughout the morning, and as I was coming in, negotiations were still taking place. And he was mentioned about possibility of signing bridge financing to support our massive infrastructure transformation of 500 million United States dollars. So we live in a strange world. And you want to know how strange it is? Let us examine the front page of all the newspapers in the Western Hemisphere tomorrow and see how many of them will speak about this story that is unfolding here today. And let us explore the front pages of those very news outlets in the Western Hemisphere and see how much would present Africa and CARICOM in a negative light. And that's a story you must understand. We have failed historically to celebrate who we are and to celebrate our accomplishments, and we must stop this failure now. We have the ability and we have presented solutions to many global problems. We have not owned those solutions. And this platform is one such avenue through which we can own our problems and find the solutions for our problems among ourselves. This is not an easy task, but it is a very important task for us. Otherwise, our solutions will continue to be clouded with the implications of other challenges. And before the end of this conference, ladies and gentlemen, we will have agreements for the establishment of a local content facilitation fund here in Guyana. So we are making meaningful progress, very strategic alliance, very strong alliance, and showing confidence in the Afri-Exim Bank and what you have to offer for this region. My distinguished colleague, Prime Minister Philip Pierre, spoke about the important cultural, economic, and human ties between Africa and the CARICOM region. And that must not be taken lightly. For a matter of fact, that is the root of this relationship. That is the bedrock of this relationship. Afri-Exim Bank has assured us that they are ready to examine a proposal from the regional private sector to present this solution. Every single state in CARICOM has made it clear that we will give all the incentives necessary to facilitate the building of a regional transport infrastructure system to solve the problem of regional transport. It is in your hands now. And we will champion it. We will champion it with Exim Bank. Form a consortium between the providers who are under the Afri-Exim Bank portfolio and the regional consortium. We are too small to think and act in silos. We have to learn to remove the imaginary barriers between ourselves and act in a collective, in consortium, bringing together our collective capital, our collective talent, our collective structure, so that we can make use of the larger scale opportunities that exist within the region. We can't tiptoe around this anymore. The private sector has failed us in this endeavor. This is a business opportunity, not a state opportunity. This is a business opportunity that governments in the region are ready to facilitate and support through the right incentive and fiscal system. We have made it very clear.
Guyana is reducing its energy costs by 50% by 2025. We're bringing the gas to shore. We want to move aggressively into agro-processing. Prime Minister Motley talked about the distribution chain, the food terminal out of Barbados. I think an opportunity exists right now. We throw away tons of fresh fruits and vegetables every day because we can't move it to the region. A cruise ship lands in Barbados, a cruise ship lands in St. Lucia. And guess what? None of that refueling of food comes from the region. So if we can just concentrate on setting up large agro-processing facilities in Guyana, being the agriculture state of the region, and then we figure out the transport economics to move those goods between the islands and to Africa, we're sitting on an exact opportunity that is real today. And from a Guyana perspective, the incentives are significant. One thing you should know, you invest in Guyana, you can repatriate all your profits. So the government is there to enable investments such as that. I think that both the continent of Africa and the Caribbean can benefit specifically in the agriculture sector. And again, what the President said, that the Caribbean on food security will be well resolved. We are actually going to start building our own refinery by the end of this year for 30,000 barrels. So it will be energy sufficient, security. We're already in the climate side and we're in food security. So I would advise investors to let's talk specifically on what it means of getting the products done in Guyana, done in the Caribbean, and then related to Africa, both Africa Import Bill reduction and the CARICOM Import Bill reduction in food security.
Kay, I imagine that you second what Peter said, just in terms of agri-processing being crucial as you're representing Barbados, fish farming as well as a key area that can be exported.
Good afternoon, everyone. I definitely agree with everything that Peter would have mentioned. One of the other areas outside, part of agriculture is fish processing also, which we're looking into a fairly significant investment, which came out of the Afri-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum last year. And we continue to work on that out of a company out of Egypt. And the idea is to be able to utilize Barbados as well as other Caribbean countries. So it is about pooling. You know, I heard the minister from talking about pooling resources and working as a team, looking at what is unique and what is the most experience in each territory and utilizing that for the full benefit of the Caribbean. So with this fish farm, we're looking to partner with Guyana actually, and to use one person as the hub for the holding company and the logistics coming through, and other places like Guyana where the actual, you know, you can get the raw materials and so on for processing, etc. So you heard the Prime Minister said, both President Ali and Prime Minister Mayor Montley, that it is about working together, it is about coming together, it's about being one Caribbean. You also heard Peter and many of the others mention the logistics. My question to everybody is, if not now, when? We have to do it now. We have to put our money where our mouths are, and we've built the excitement around this whole logistics between Africa and the Caribbean. Let's just get it done. We don't have to start out with everybody flying around every day, but how about once a month? How about once every 2 months? Let's get it out there. Let's show persons that it can work. It is the natural solution, I would say, to many of the issues, even between the CARICOM countries sometimes. You heard Peter just now speak about agro-processing and getting that food and how to get it out, to how to process it and get it out, and dealing with the logistics. Well, let's deal with the logistics. Let's fix that and use that as a solution to many of the problems that you see.
Barbados is known for their black belly sheep. They're well known for that. They actually running out of space. So they have sent their black belly sheep to Guyana for us to rear, but it's still their product. And I think that's a good example of how we're collaborating in the whole agriculture sector.
And another part of collaboration is even the pharmaceuticals, which we're going to be looking into dealing with very shortly in terms of the pharmaceutical sector. Again, collaboration between many CARICOM countries to make sure that we in this region as well as Africa are well placed should anything, again, like the pandemic occur, but also outside of that, having access to those medications that we need without having to go to other persons to get them.
Thank you, Kay and Peter. Darwin, let me bring you in because you're our ports guy. And if you listen to what Kay and Peter were saying, I mean, yes, I think everyone in this room agrees with them, but it's easier said than done, especially when you think about transporting goods to other parts of the world. When you think about intra-Africa trade, because there's not enough freight demand, oftentimes goods will get sent to another part of the world before they get sent to the destination in Africa that they're originally intended to go. That's a problem. That's a problem. And then when you start throwing the Caribbean into the mix, it makes the whole thing that much more complicated and difficult. So what's the solution?
Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's an opportunity. It's not a problem. We do have a solution. I am quite energized by the fact that we have global traffic moving from all over the world in various sizes, and they're being handled in various forms. For example, the Caribbean has moved away from being 80–90% dependent on the United States for its sustainability, and a significant amount, 20–30%, is now shifting towards Asia. China is further away from us than Africa is, and we are relying on that supply chain from China in various forms. Some businesses can move pallets, some businesses move boxes, some businesses move containers. So the opportunity we have with Africa is an opportunity to design a logistics system where we begin to move the scale that is required. Now, the challenge with that is that humans like to see things in straight lines, and logistics doesn't happen in a straight line. It can happen in various forms, but it gets there. You didn't travel directly to Guyana, but you got here. So what we need to do in Africa is design initially the locations where we can consolidate various types of goods, establish the form of transport that exists. So we don't get into feeding into very expensive options with low volumes. We use established existing opportunities to move them, and because it's consolidated going to many different islands, we bring it into the region, and then there becomes the question of where do you hub that? So there are some discussions with regards to where is the cargo in Africa, how can you pool it together, and to do that you need logistics partners called NVOCCs, non-vessel operating common carriers, or ocean transport intermediaries, and these folks are already there. So you don't need the warehouse even, you don't need the box, it's just the concept and it already exists. We can filter through those established entities, bring it into the region, and distribute it from here. So the platform exists. We now need to find the cargo. And just to add real quick, I think in listening to the discussion, I think that the opportunity exists where we recognize that we in the region are net importers. So we are looking for goods to come from Africa, and I think that's the easier thing to do. Over time, as we build the relationship, we will be reciprocal. But initially, as it stands right now, since our production is low, to initiate the engagement, we need to decide how much of that US-bound freight, Asia-bound freight, we want to switch over in what we determine as reallocating of trade to do import substitution, to say what are the items we can move efficiently in terms of trading costs, transport costs, and find the location in the region where we can do the distribution efficiently.
Ports are one thing, but transportation overall, also a major issue. When you think about people in Africa trying to get to the Caribbean, maybe it's easier, kind of, but it's not, because you need visas, and you actually do need to stop over anyway, right? And actually, aside from you, Mike, because you're from Nigeria, how many people here, just raise your hand, if on your latest trip or most recent trip to Africa you needed a visa? Oh, just you? Nobody else? Nobody else, so just you needed a visa. Okay, so perhaps there are other avenues, but for the ordinary citizens, they do need visas, and that's an issue as well. And then when it comes to traveling the other way, going from the Caribbean to Africa, there also needs to be the demand, and part of that is really boosting ancestral tourism.
Sure. Thank you so much, and thanks to the organizers for inviting Caribbean Export to this conversation. It's quite timely. Just this June, Caribbean Export, we undertook our first mission to West Africa. We took 35 businesses, well, business and public officials, to the continent, to Accra and to Lagos. And the visa issue was right in front of us. So except for Barbadians, Guyanese, and I believe Trinidad and Tobago, everyone else from the 15 countries that we represent, so we work with CARICOM and the Dominican Republic, everybody else needed a visa, right? So while we speak about logistics...
So it's country specific?
Yes, it's country specific, yes, but if we are to do justice to the conversation about logistics and people-to-people ties and increasing business opportunities, we have to understand the issues of accessibility. So yes, we may have the links, and yes, it would be great, but in this instance, if we did not have the good office of the Ghana Investment Promotion Agency, for instance, who was able to act as a sponsor and work with the immigration authorities, then this would not have happened. And the average business person may not have that network, may not have that ability to find somebody to more or less sponsor you. So we need to look just not about the logistics, but the actual accessibility. And I believe it works both ways. Just last week, Caribbean Export hosted its second investment forum in the Bahamas. And we had several people from the continent wanting to come to the Bahamas, but it was just prohibitive, costly, it's red tape. So there's a lot of other things that we need to be looking at when if we want to enhance the trade aspect.
Darwin, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, I just want to add that we have to be real in what we say. If we're going to trade, let's trade. We can't be trading in half ways. We're going to let people move. We want people to move. Antigua and Barbuda has direct flights from Africa into St. John's, into VC Bird International. So I want to make that clear. And that is something that we have done. We've opened up the capacity to receive a visa upon arrival, which makes it easy. But if we're discussing trade, we should make it open, we should make it accessible, and we should allow it to be free. Quickly, in trade or in transport, there is a concept called a cabotage. The cabotage decides how you allow trade to happen. And I think in many instances, the cabotage is usually restrictive in preventing others from accessing your space. I think there should be no cabotage between Africa and the Caribbean, because it should be a space where we allow folks to move directly into. We are the same people, and we design the system of asking for tourism with passengers, and yet we are the most compellingly restricted in terms of wanting them. So I like to say boxes are cargo, but people are cargo too. If you want cargo, break the walls down and let people in.
Speaking of barriers, Mike, payment systems, another barrier. You obviously have a payment systems company, and trade within Africa complicated by settling bills, different payment systems. You now throw the Caribbean into the mix. It's obviously another hurdle. So how do we overcome that?
Exactly right. All of what we do has a dependence on payments. So every day we go out, we create value, but then we consume some of those values and we exchange the rest with the next person. And that's actually what underpins trade. Now, when you trade between nations, it becomes even more complicated when you have different currencies, different regulatory frameworks. What we have done in Afrexim is to create an instant payment system that is low cost, that allows trade in local currencies, that works on a multilateral net system. Now, what these do is that, first of all, being instant means that it allows more frequency of trade. So, for example, you're a small trader, you're buying clothes from somewhere to sell. If it takes you 3-4 days to confirm payments, those are 3-4 days less that you would have used to trade, okay? So what we've done is to make this system such that it's able to enable instant payments in local currencies. Now, we talk about integration of the continental Africa with the Caribbeans, and we're talking about trade. The most powerful tool that we can have that will accelerate this trade is that ability to make payments using the Barbadian dollars to someone who is receiving payments in Nigeria, in Nigerian naira. And then ultimately, net settlement happens between the settlement participants. If we're able to do that, again, my economist friends tell me that GDP, that there's a component of GDP that has to do with the net of import and export, and that is trade. if we're able to increase that frequency of trade, we'll have an increase in the volume and values of trade, and that will certainly be an increase to the GDP of the participating countries. So we're very excited, and we know that payments has that transformational effect that will actually bring to life all of what we have spoken to, because when you travel, you make payments. When you eat, you make payments. Whatever you do, you make payments as far as you're exchanging value.
Thank you, Mike. So, Nazim, you're obviously part of the International Islamic Trade and Finance Corporation. You're here in Guyana to do business, looking at Guyana as a possible trading partner. Just explain to us what the ITFC can bring to Guyana.
First of all, I would like to say that thank you to Afri-Caribbean Bank for inviting ITFC to come to this forum, and it's our first time here. So I just want to explain more about what background between why we are here. ITFC, the International Islamic Trade Finance Corporation, is a multilateral trade finance institution, member of the Islamic Development Bank Group based in Saudi Arabia. So we are here for two reasons. We come at this forum to explore the business opportunities, and at the same time that Guyana is a member of the bank. In addition to Guyana, you have another country, which is Suriname. We have 57 member countries, spanning from Asia to South America. 2 of them is here. So we are here because they are member countries, they are shareholders of the bank, we are here to look at how we can be part of the socio-economic development of these countries, which are also member of CARICOM. So let me tell you what we do exactly in ITFC is purely trade finance. We do, over 15 years, more than $70 billion of trade finance business from Asia to Africa. And we have done business in Suriname, trade finance. So our mandate, our objective is to facilitate trade of our member countries, to do trade between themselves and with the rest of the world. So when I'm here, what we are here trying to do is to bring our expertise of trade finance, which is more than 45 years, because before ITFC, we used to be a department in the bank, Islamic Development Bank. So we had more than 45 years as a multilateral doing trade finance. So this is our core of a business. Our expertise is bringing the expertise of trade finance and trade development to the region. We have, in addition to trade finance, we do trade development activities to get an idea that we want to leverage on that expertise. We have flagship program. One of them is called Arab Africa Trade Bridge Program, which our main partner is Afri-Caribbean Bank. We work a lot with them. And in this program, we try to facilitate trade between Arab countries and African countries. And we can bring that expertise to the region of how we can facilitate trade flows between Africa and the Caribbean countries. And we are part of doing the business for our 2 member countries, which facilitate the trade with the neighbors and also with the rest of the world. So we will be very happy to bring that expertise to the region and also to boost the trade that we have here. So first of all, I want to mention about trade finance. We talk about, first of all, logistics is an issue that we face everywhere. I'm working, for example, presently on a program for Central Asia. Central Asian countries or countries, for information, or double landlocked countries, how we can make them do business, do trade. These are the type of things that we work a lot. We can bring that expertise. Here in this region, we are not landlocked, but we have a lot of sea. So we need the shipping, because what is international trade is the good to be produced at competitive rate, the shipping or the transport to bring it to the market, and we need the finance to finance the whole transaction. So it's a physical approach to international trade, good shipping and finance. So the solution is not easy, all right? We need to look at, from my personal experience, we need to look at the think tank of how we can, a business council will work about looking at the challenges, the different pillars of the problem. We need to look at, therefore, study the possibility of a free trade area between Africa and Caribbean, and about bringing a fintech solution or digital solution to trade processing, because we need borderless and paperless processing of trade. And finally, we're talking about the shipping. Main one, very important, is maybe to look at in the first phase to have I would say maritime hubs in each region, maybe 2 in Africa and 1 in here, because there's not enough cargo volume, where we can group them, pool them, and then when they reach in a hub, let's say in the Caribbean, we have feeder vessel or cabotage that can bring them to the different islands, and so that we can have to. In the beginning, to be practical, it will not be something efficient in terms of cost, but we need to bear the high cost at the beginning to be able to create the necessary volume over time. Because it's a chicken and egg solution, which comes first, the trade or the shipping. So one of them, I mean, governments look at shipping as a solution where we may have to subsidize it to be able to create volume over time, cargo volume. Thank you.
Unfortunately, we are out of time now, so can we just give a quick round of applause to our panelists?